Welcome, guys, to Two Baka Talks. We're doing something a little bit different. We've got a little podcast for you. Obviously, myself, Cy the Turtle. You can check me out on Twitch if you want. And we got ourselves Mr. Rotoprism.
Hello. Please, Mr. Rotoprism's my father. Not really. Could you imagine though if my dad is like, oh, I'm Rotoprism? Anyway, I'm Rotoprism. Yeah, top anime streamer. That's my dad, obviously. Yeah, I'm Rotoprism. You can find me on Twitch and YouTube. You know, same as Sai, pretty much.
You've all seen the videos that we do. Hopefully, if you've not,
hopefully
go watch them all. We're still going to be doing videos like that, but due to the fact that I am UK based, Mr. Rotoprism is American based. There's a couple of difficulties with the timing on things. So we thought, you know what, we both like to talk about anime, manhwa, all that good stuff. Why not just do a little cheeky podcast? Why not?
It also makes way more sense with the names. Two Baka Talks. It just that sounds like a podcast, right? Two idiots talk about, stuff they like.
And the sad thing is, we didn't realize that until after agreeing to do a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly a thought in the back of my mind at one point, but I'm like, nah, it's fine. We're doing all right. And then, we were working on videos, and it takes us a month, to work on a single video, and I'm like, that's pretty hard.
But we're still going to do the videos. They are going to be slower, but hopefully we're aiming to get this podcast being a bit of a routine thing. Like, I'm not going to commit to any days yet, but if you've been watching the videos, you know what we're like. Like, come on.
We're also working on more varied content. Obviously the 10 reasons are going to keep happening, but we're also working on other stuff, very slowly working on other things.
So we thought for our first podcast, let's get some controversy going. So we're gonna be focusing on what's it called?
I don't know. You're the one with the you're like, don't worry, Rotoprism. You don't call me Rotoprism, but it's whatever.
Fan service, that's the one.
Yeah.
See, we don't have a script for this, so this is gonna be completely just messed up compared to the videos, but we're here for it. Fan service in anime. Good place to start. So if you've seen our Fire Force video, you may know that myself and Rotoprism aren't exactly huge fans of fan service. Haha. You get what I did there? But I don't know, we thought we'd bring it up for discussion. Put in the comments what you think once you've listened to us speak. But Mr. Plane, I would say, by the way, I'm going to call him Plane. He's known as Rotoprism, but I've known him as Plane for years, so you have to
playing the game, guys. I'm really good at coming up with names. I'm like, man, I really want to play Minecraft. What should my username be? Oh, playing the game. That's it. I did it. And I've been using that username for a long time now.
So I figured a great place to start would be, what was the first anime you watched that had fan service that was kind of like, it's what you remember it for?
Oh, that's a difficult question.
I can start. So, personally, my first anime I ever actually watched was High School of the Dead.
Oh, wow. Like, did you pick an anime based off how much fan service it has? You went with High School of the Dead?
So basically, I got put onto this by a friend at high school, ironic. But I had a friend that was into anime and everything. I wasn't at the time. I watched Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, like the westernized stuff. I never watched anything that was more anime, like you sort of more generic animes. And I was like, I don't know about this. And my mate was like, no, it's really good, really good. The zombies and everything. I'm like, come on, any kid in high school, yeah, zombies, you're interested. So I started watching it. And for those of you that haven't, there is a scene where one of the characters needs, should we say, like a mount for a rifle, and he decides to choose one of the other characters' chests, this being a female character. And yeah, you can kind of imagine what happens. Those of you who've seen it, I'm sure this scene is like engraved in your brain, because whenever you see anything about High School of the Dead, that clip is in there. But yeah, I don't know. Personally, I think it wasn't the worst fan service I've ever seen in anime, now that I've watched a lot more. but I feel like it was just like, yo, why? Like, it was my first interaction with it, and I was just like, what?
Isn't there a scene in High School of the Dead where there's a woman like fighting with swords or something like that, and someone shoots a sniper rifle that goes in between her tits as they like jiggle? That's horrible. That's some of the worst fan service I've ever seen in anime.
So off the top of my head, you have the woman with the swords who basically wears nothing. You've got the bullet that goes between the chest. You've got the guy that mounts on the other girl's chest. You've got the shower scene that is now in, or the sauna scene that's basically in every anime ever now that I've noticed. And it all just felt a bit out of place. Like when I first started watching it, so I mean, if you've not watched it, maybe spoilers ahead, but it's been a long time. Like you should have watched it by now. There's it starts off on the rooftop of a school, and one of the main guys is fighting some zombies with like a bat and everything, or it gets to there pretty quick, and you get quite immersed into it. It's really cool. Like you can see how you may survive in that scenario. Like it was pretty fun. And then as you get really into it, all this starts happening, and you're just like, well, I'm too invested to stop now. It's still good. Like I say, it wasn't too far gone, but there were scenes where I'm just like, yo, can we not have this slow-mo physics shot? Can we just go back to, like, you know, dealing with zombies?
That show, I haven't seen High School of the Dead, right? Because I only know it for the fan service. And I'm like, I'm going to avoid that show. I know there's a woman in it who's famous for wearing, like, extremely, extremely short shorts. Like, I've seen images, and I'm like, my belts are, like, wider than her shorts, is how thin those shorts are. I've never seen that one. That's one that I haven't seen. In my long list of anime, I haven't seen that one.
Do you have one that's one of your starters?
Let's see. So I started, you know, as a kid, I watched, you know, the Pokemon, Yu Yu Hakusho, a bit of One Piece, Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball, original Dragon Ball, I watched that as a kid. That has quite a bit of fan service in it. Quite a bit. You know, obviously Master Roshi, you know, he's a perv. And Bulma is in it, and they do a lot of fan service with her, which is weird because, you know, Japan's weird. When it comes to stuff that isn't okay in the West, is what I'll say. And Bulma is certainly that in the original Dragon Ball. But I didn't really get into actually watching anime until Attack on Titan came out. That's when I really started getting into anime. First season of Attack on Titan. And I watched a show called K, I believe is what it's called. And that one fan service sticks out to me. There's a cat girl in it who, for like the first 3 episodes, is just like naked anytime we see her. Just no clothes at all. And then when she actually does wear clothes, it's just panty shots, like for the rest of the show.
I've never heard of this.
There's like a lieutenant for like a police like thing, and she wears like super tight clothes, and like there's a lot of like, I don't know, like her chest is very tight but like open, like a V-neck kind of like jacket kind of thing. So, you know, a lot of cleavage in that show.
I think a good show. The one you're on about there.
It's a good show, I think. But
I think there's a difference between shows that put it in there randomly than shows that revolve around it. So like the one you're talking about, I can't remember the proper name of it now, but there is one where it's like a prison guard setting, and they do it
Prison
purposefully.
School?
Maybe
Prison School. Prison School is funny. The Yechi, you know, it's pretty advanced. The fan service in that is pretty advanced, but it's also leans to the comedy a lot in that show. Whereas, like, the fan service has like different levels, right? Whether it's purely, you know, fan service, right? But there's also stuff that's labeled fan service that I would say just works with the show, right? It's part of the joke. And Prison School certainly has fan service just for fan service, but some of it's actually, I think, very comedic in the way they do it, compared to like Fire Force. What's her name? Tamaki or whatever.
Yeah,
where
Tamaki.
her fan service, it ruins the setting, right? It just will ruin any scene that it happens in. You have a very dramatic scene where you're like, oh man, I can't believe what's going on here. And then fan service for no reason, right? That ruins it. Whereas in Prison School, it really adds to the comedy in the way they do it, I feel. There's a very famous shower scene in Prison School between two male characters, which I think is fan service, even though it's male characters. And being that, we're two heterosexual cis males, we don't typically think of male nudity as fan service, but I think it's probably labeled as fan service. That's really, really funny. I think is enjoyable.
I think it does come down to like the way they portray it, because like if you watch Food Wars or Kagaguri, those shows they know what they're doing, but arguably they show less than most. But like Food Wars, for example, he makes the meal, they eat the meal, and they go into this euphoric state where normally their clothes are like just gone, but everything is covered with the food or whatever. But that's what the show revolves around. It's the same scene, whether it's male, female, whatever it is. It's the same scene every time. Like something is gonna happen that put them in this euphoric state. Kagaguri plays on the whole sort of overly excited gambling euphoria, which again does similar things. Now, when it comes to things like, for example, Seven Deadly Sins, something a bit more recent, Meliodas' interaction with Elizabeth is very
sexual harassment.
Yeah, it comes across like it doesn't add to anything. Like with Food Wars and Kagaguri, it's part of the story. Like you can, as much as it's fan service, I've never seen those as they're ruining the show for this one scene. Like Food Wars, I think the first episode or two, you're already shown one of these scenes, so you know what you're getting into. Whereas with some of the others, it's like you'll watch 4 or 5 episodes and then just throw in this one scene, and you're like, what just happened there? Like I was watching this, like you're saying with Fire Force, you're watching this really, really epic fight going on in front of you, and then before you know it, Catwoman's just fallen over and she's naked, and you're like, why did this happen? Like, this makes no sense. They tried to make it a part of her lore that she has this unlucky power. Lure. Yeah. And it's like, how are you trying to make this canon? Like, no. Maybe if they did it once, so like I would say like Fairy Tail, there's beach scenes in there are shower scenes, there are sauna scenes, everything like that. But they're very spread out. Now I'm not saying Fairy Tail doesn't do fan service, it definitely does.
It has the episode specifically dedicated to doing fan service.
Yeah,
on top
it's
like,
not just drip fed in. It's like, right, here's your one, go away.
I feel like a lot of Ezra's outfits are fan service. When she transforms or whatever. I feel like a lot of those.
Yeah, Ezra's outfits are questionable. I think the way that Taurus interacts with Lucy is very questionable. But again, like, so I will say, when Lucy summons Taurus, for those of you who don't know, Fairy Tail is a magic sort of world, and Lucy can use keys to summon the horoscope deities, or whatever you want to refer to them as, the star signs.
They're the constellations. Yeah, the constellations.
And she summons Taurus, and he is extremely into Lucy, and he doesn't hide this, and it's very. I don't like the scenes that he's in personally. I think they're kind of ruined because she brings him out as one of her melee fighters. Like, he's meant to be quite strong, but he's always distracted by her, and it's just like, but you're meant to be strong. Like, can you go and do something? Like, I just find it boring when he's there. Whereas when Urza's changing her outfits in this, like, you don't see anything. Yes, the outfits are sometimes a bit revealing, but you know something epic's coming from it. Like, I don't mind that. I just find it pointless when it doesn't mean anything.
Before we get too far away, going back to Seven Deadly Sins and Food Wars with Meliodas, his is like I don't know. This is supposed to be like main character of the show, Meliodas. You know, one of the main characters at least. But you just, I don't know. I don't like Meliodas' character at all because he's basically a sexual predator when it comes to Elizabeth. Yeah, if you watch the show, they have a long history, but at the time, Elizabeth doesn't know that, and he's doing it without any kind of permission or anything, right? He's just touching her. It's not great. It's not good at all. It's definitely like I know Japan has a lot of trouble with this kind of stuff on like trains and stuff like that. So I don't know if it comes in from that. And then with Food Wars, that makes sense because the author of that was originally a doujin author, right? He wrote hentai, right? You see this a lot in for mangakas, people who write manga, that they start out on that more lewd side, right? Because it gets more attention than the realistic stories. And I think Food Wars does handle it really well.
Yeah,
it's not every scene.
If they commit to it and they just say, yeah, this is what it is, I'm fine with that. Like, say for example, if halfway through Seven Deadly Sins, everyone just started losing their clothes in every fight, like it was all burnt off and everything, you'd be like, this isn't what I started watching. Like, I think we've all been there where you're watching something really cool, someone walks into your room at the wrong moment, and you're just thinking in your head, this isn't what I'm watching.
Yeah, you know like you're watching isekai fantasy, and you're like, okay, this guy and his team is gonna go fight, and the team is like 2 guys and 3 girls, and you're like, that's fine, it's whatever. But then they fight like slimes or something, and the slimes, for whatever reason, melt clothes. And you're like, it's weird that they're only melting the women's clothes in the scene, don't you think?
Yeah.
And then someone walks in, and you're like, this isn't what it looks like. I know these girls are covered in slime and they're naked, but it isn't what it looks like. You know, it's just unneeded fan service. When I think of a show that does that, I think of like I can't remember what it's called. It's like Going on Adventure with My Mom and Her Overpowered 2 Multi-Hit Attack or something like that. And
you've lost me there.
Yeah, that one's really bad. The mom really wants to have sex with her son is basically what it is. And the other one is Summoned to Another World with My Smartphone. Does the exact same thing. That's also not a very good show. Compared to like a show like Blood Lad, which I consider to be a very good show, but has quite a bit of fan service in it. But its story is way better, and I feel like the fan service is, I don't know, done better, more respectfully, maybe.
I think looking at respectful fan service, I would go to Grimgar Fantasy and Ash. There's a couple scenes where there's a scene where they try to look into the girl's shower.
One character in particular wants to, and he's the worst character in the show. You're like, this guy's kind of a scumbag.
Yeah, but they from what the anime shows, it's only suggested. Everything stays like, even when the girls confront him, they're completely like toweled from like neck to toe. They're like, yes, there are certain scenes where they are drawn.
The scout girl is certainly, I don't know, like the angles they choose to show the scout girl scouting, certainly questionable, right?
Yeah, I think the actual art style does emphasize certain aspects of the characters, but I think the actual interactions that cause the fan service, they had the baseline there and they didn't do it. But I think that was a better way of doing it. That, like, it created a bit more of a story. You're not just like, you're not watching this take place and getting frustrated that it's pointless. It created more of a dynamic between the characters. Whereas in most, like, you see this happen, there's like an angry scene, and then everyone's just forgot it ever happened, and you're like, well, why did we have to sit through that? Whereas in Grimgar, it created this sort of, like, I think it was about 3 or 4 episodes later, they were still sort of not happy about it. And it made sense. It just felt like they put a slight bit of fan service in, but they made it fit. Where in other places, it feels like, here's some, we're going to ignore we ever did that. I think that's my problem with it. Like, I'm not against fan service or anything like that. I'm against it being forced. If that makes sense.
There's a show came out in late 2000s, before 2010, called Heaven's Lost Property. And it's an ecchi show, right? It's mostly filled with fan service. And in that show, the main character does very questionable things at times. The show's very, very ecchi. And his neighbor or whatever hit my mic, who likes him, but he like sexually harasses her or peeks on her, and she gets mad and slaps him, right? And then that's just completely dropped in the next scene, right? Like, she has the right to be actually angry at this guy with what he did, but it doesn't actually affect the story in any way. It's just, look, I saw you in your underwear or whatever, and then it's just completely forgotten after that, which is, I think, the bad version of fan service, right? It's done just for the sexual aspects.
I think that there's an anime I've had on my list to watch for ages, Kill la Kill. And I have not watched it to this day purely on the fact that the main character is dressed the way she is. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not that I'm against however they want to dress or anything like that. It's just with the other stuff that I'm watching, it looks more appealing than like I said, I've never watched it. I don't watch trailers or anything like that. So I've just had recommendations. I've seen a picture when you Google it, and I've just thought to myself, well, I can't really be bothered with that. Like, I will probably watch it one day, but the general first impression to me is just, this is going to be a really boring fan surfacey show.
I haven't watched the show. I know it's very popular. I know it has a lot of action, but yeah, the main characters, or like the main character, main villain, is very much a fan servicey show. Very, very, very much so. I know it's very popular. There's good fight scenes from what I've heard in it. It's funny, but it's certainly a fan service show. I mean, if you want to talk about like the show it's very popular for its fan service, I think probably one of the most well-known shows for, for this type of content would be High School DxD. Do you know High School DxD?
Again, it's on my list. I haven't watched it.
I wouldn't recommend that one for you. It has I've watched all of High School DxD. Just putting that out there. It's a very trash show. It's probably borderline hentai, I would say. It's entirely fan service. That's the entirety of the show. It just has a story also. I don't think it's a show you would really enjoy, if I'm being honest. That show takes it too far a lot of the times, I feel. But that's the content it is. You don't go into that show thinking, oh, this is going to be a nice family, wholesome, sit down with my parents, my kids, or whatever kind of show. It's definitely the no one can ever know I've watched this show kind of thing.
And you just told everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch everything. You need
everyone go to his stream, make sure everybody knows.
Yeah, you know what? You can check out my Anime Planet. I'll put it in the description for this video if you're interested in what I've watched. I've watched mine, but, a lot.
Don't hate me because I've never watched the big ones. Dragon Ball Z and Naruto ain't for me.
I haven't watched Steins Gate or Death Note. Like, these are big shows if you're into anime, but I've never watched them. I've watched a lot of stuff. A lot of it's trash. If there's ever like a trash isekai fantasy, I've probably seen it. A lot of rom-coms, I've seen them. Bunch of ecchi shows. So obviously High School DxD. I've seen Testament of a New Sister Devil or whatever it's called. I've seen all the seasons of that, and that show is also, it's like the same as High School DxD. It takes it up to a next level. Like it's basically hentai, that series. Some shows I've sadly seen redo of a healer. That show's really, really, really bad.
Again, I've not seen that one.
It came out last season. Not last season, last year, I believe. I believe it came out 2021. That one has a lot of ecchi, a lot of fan service, but it has a lot of stuff that you can't talk about on YouTube. It's not a good show. I wouldn't recommend it. I've seen a lot of ecchi shows though. Certainly a lot of fan service shows.
Moving away from anime, so there is a manhwa that I used to read called Her Summon, and so I read quite a lot of like isekai manhwa, and it's basically a introvert shut-in who, when he goes to sleep, he gets summoned into this other world, and he can take things with him. Forgive me if I get any of this wrong. It has been a long time since I read it, but you can basically take things from the real world with him, and they become something else in that world. So, for example, he took a laser pen, and it turned into like an orbital strike beacon thing that just like annihilates monsters. Obviously, in any world that you get teleported to, there are monsters. He's took like batteries that have turned into like thunder powers and everything. So it's a really, really cool concept. But they ruined it. So I've not watched it I've not read it in ages due to one of the issues I got up to. He takes in his real life, there is a certain like lolly that he's interested in, and he buys matching outfit of what she wears, which is basically just underwear, and he takes it in with him, and he tries to convince his summoner that she needs to wear it to power up. And again, she's a very young looking person and all this. It's like, I don't know, it's just sus. She's portrayed to not be, but you know.
I'm looking at the description here, and she is described as a petite summoner. Petite, so very small. And looking in the image, I can tell you she looks like a kid. She looks very young in this image.
So he tries to convince her. And
I've never read this series, so
it literally for probably about like she says no, but she keeps it, and then next time she tries to summon him, he doesn't come, and then he comes the time after that, and she thinks it's because she didn't, wear this amazing armor that he's given her. So after a couple of episodes, eventually she wears it, and it's just like. It was such a really, really, really cool concept. The fact that you can take these real life items and turn them into this like overpowered stuff. Like she went from basically being the worst summoner in the world to the best just because he brought items with him. And then to ruin it like this, like I don't know, it just felt so undeserved. Like they had such an amazing story to then just throw this at it, and it's like you could have done so much. Like you didn't need to go this route. So yeah, it's not just anime. And for anyone who's watching this who enjoys fan service, don't get me wrong, I think when the shows have done it well, I think 100% it has value in certain scenarios. But I think when you ruin a storyline for that fan service that doesn't add anything, you got to think to yourself, like, what was the point?
There's an anime I really like called Saga of Tanya the Evil. It's a really good alternate history World War I where they have magic, and Tanya has been isekai'd into this world. So she's like 9 or 10 in this show or whatever, and the show doesn't have any fan service in it really at all. But I started reading the manga, and for some reason, the manga has fan service in it. And you're like, why? Like, it doesn't need it in any way. This is a bit of a more gritty story of World War II. It's really good, I feel. And then just every few chapters, there'll be fan service. And you're like, we didn't need that, right? Especially with the age Tanya is. It's really just completely unnecessary. And in very poor taste, I feel.
I'm trying to think is there an anime that like it's like you've got your mundane stuff that's just common. It's like Shield Hero. you have it where Philo, when she first turns, it makes sense. So Philo is essentially like a bird that turns into a human. I'm pretty sure when she turns, she's basically naked, but she's under wraps, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Like, yeah, that would be what would happen if it would happen. But they keep it wrapped up. I can't think of a situation in Shield Hero. I could be wrong, but I can't think of a reason where they take it too far. And there's a love interest between Raftalia and the MC. She is what would you say? She's like a squirrel girl or something.
She's a demi-human. Yeah. I probably like a tanuki or something like that. I'm not really sure what she is. Maybe a raccoon. She's a raccoon girl. Yes. So she's like a tanuki.
It's a raccoon. It's been a while. Forgive us, guys. But yeah.
I mean, the second season is airing right now. I'm just saying.
We are basing this on season 1. But yeah, there's a love interest between her and the MC, and there's a sort of a triangle with Philo involved who's jealous. So they could have easily portrayed it. I think there's one scene where Talia tries to commit herself to the MC, but they play it off and he says like, nah, I'm like, ain't happening. But there's this 3-way triangle of like wanting a relationship and jealousy, and they have potential. Like, the writers could have easily thrown these two characters into like a fan service sort of area to try and get the MC's attention and to give, like, you know, the viewers the fan service, and they didn't. I think it was really nicely handled. Like, I think Shield Hero for me is one of my favorites for storyline and general actual like anime. I think it's done really, really well. And
I think the strong point with Shield Hero is that the main character, the Shield Hero, I don't remember his name. It's like it starts with an I think. I don't remember what it is. I think the main thing there is he still sees Raptalia as a child, because canonically she's like 12 years old, but the way demi-humans work in the series is as they level up, they physically mature, right? But from his point of view, she's still just a 12-year-old, right? He sees her as like his daughter. Same with Philo. Sees Philo as his daughter, and she's like less than 1, I think, currently in the show. So it makes sense. Yeah, she was literally an egg at the start of the series, who hatched and became, you know, this small bird and large bird, larger, yeah, and then turned into a human. But even her human form is very much a child. I would say she probably isn't romantically in love with him. I say her relationship is much more like father-daughter kind of thing.
Yeah, she wants the attention.
Yeah, I would say really if there's a love triangle in that show, it would be with the second princess, the crown princess.
Oh, Melty.
Yeah, I would say it's probably her, because she definitely seems like she's genuinely in love with the Shield Hero.
But that's the thing again. You know? Like, he essentially has gotten himself a harem, and they haven't really given any fan service. Like, it's not like that. That is a really, really, really good example of a show that has one male character for many, many female characters, and they've just let you enjoy it. Like, they've not said, like, they're not forcing this fan service down your throat. You're taking in the story, which is good. Like, the fight scenes are good. Like, everything about it is really good. If you've not watched Shield Hero, please do.
Yeah, it's a good show. Good show.
Yeah, I've only just thought about that. He literally has a full like harem, and they've never had to force that to you.
Yeah, let's be honest. The best girl in that show is the queen. So that's all I'm saying. She's definitely top tier material. That's all I'm saying.
I think, all in all, I would say, my opinion personally, fan service is generally not needed. I'd say 9 out of 10 scenarios that I've come across it, I've sort of said to myself, well, why?
Yeah, it's genuinely unneeded. Yeah,
there are very niche moments where I would say, all right, yeah, understandable that like that didn't really mess with anything. I think that's fine. There are certain shows like we said, Food Wars, Kagaguri, that do it really well, and I think as a show, completely fine. But yeah, what would you say, Plain?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some content that, yeah, it's definitely needed. I mean, I want to separate fan service from, like, if you're watching like an adult show, not like hentai or something, but I mean a show for adults. It makes sense for there to be, sexual content in it, being that that's just life, right? But I do feel like generally it makes the show lesser, the fan service. Obviously, prime example, we brought it up before, we'll bring it up again. Fire Force makes the fan service in that show unneeded. It certainly lowers the show a bit, ruins dramatic scenes. Seven Deadly Sins, it makes you just not like the main character in any way. Yeah, so I would say on the whole, fan service is probably a bad thing. Not always, but generally, I think it's probably a negative for a show to have fan service like that.
But if you want to discuss with us, comment down below. Let us know what you think. Is there any shows that you think do it well beyond the ones that we've mentioned, or is there any scenes that you thought, like, why am I watching this? Yeah, these podcasts are gonna be, as you can probably tell, they're unscripted. We have a topic and we're just gonna chat away. If there's anything you want us to cover, whether it's a certain anime, manhwa, a certain subject, like anything that you want to talk about, put it down in the comments, and we're gonna try and be regular with these. But I think that'll do us for today. So thank you all for watching.
Hold on, wait, hold on, before we go, first off, I want to say people can also bring up light novels. I read a lot of light novels. And number 2, I want to make a challenge for you before we leave to read Chainsaw Man, because I want someone to read Chainsaw Man so I can discuss it with them. I thought I would make that challenge before we end it here.
Well, if you've made it this far in the video, obviously you must be very committed to us. So how about I'll read Chainsaw Man if you read Chainsaw Man?
Are you talking to the audience here?
I am. I'm talking to the audience, and it'll be me. I'll be here at this part of the video going, okay, I'll do it.
I accept your challenge. I'll be both Sa and the audience accepting this challenge. It's a really good show.
I'm not saying I'll have it watched by next time, but I'll watch. I'll have it read at some point. I will work on it.
The manga is coming back sometime during the summer. The anime is starting next season. So right now I feel like it's a good time to get on the Chainsaw Man bandwagon. I feel like now is a good time for that.
And then I'll go and watch Who Killed Chainsaw Man.
No, that's wrong. It's Who Killed the Gun Devil. Good try,
that's
though.
The one. But it is Chainsaw Man.
Good try. It is from Chainsaw Man. The Gun Devil is in. Is that a spoiler? That might be a spoiler.
Well, there you go, guys. Go and find out who the Gun Devil is. Yeah, thanks for watching. All our socials down below. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of this kind of thing. This is going to be our more regular content. They are still going to be doing videos, so if this isn't for you, still sub, because we'll be bringing out other stuff too. Thanks for listening, and peace from me.
Bye bye, everyone. I'll see you next time.
And do a set beat like.
Nah, we gotta still the.